Good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are. I've written something that I would like to share. It seems not only important to my own evolution, um, but to our society here in Canada, as well as abroad, globally. With Remembrance Day approaching, just a couple weeks away, it seems like if there's a good time, I don't want to put it that way, but this is a time where perhaps something that I feel on a daily basis should be shared. I have some music in the background just to kind of, for my own comfort, keep me suppressed or de escalated. I enlisted in the Essex and Kent Scottish Regiment in Windsor, Ontario in 2008. I was 16 at the time. As soon as I put on the uniform and started walking amongst the soldiers that had already been in for quite some time, I noticed that there was something that appeared to be common amongst them all that wasn't being acknowledged or talked about or spoken of. There was not even terminology for what it was back then. Now, today in 2023, we know that it is a common thing for people in combat trades within militaries to develop post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD. So I decided when I was about 18 or 19 that I was going to get my psychology degree from the University of Windsor and become an officer and help these guys with these issues, living with this situation. In 2015, I'm just going over my list. 2015, I voluntarily released from the military with undiagnosed PTSD myself, ironically, and I had never gone on tour. I was just doing some research last night, and there's actually no statistical difference between people within combat armed trades who have been on deployment and who have not, in terms of the suicide rate, which is hard for even myself to make sense of. Usually now that I'm speaking about my truth and my experience, the first thing people want to know is, well, where were you deployed? Where did you serve? Where did you go? Really what people are asking is, did you go to combat? Because in our minds, we feel like that's the deciding factor between what should be an acceptable case of PTSD and what shouldn't be. The stigma around mental health has been declining over the years, but there's still a lot of confusion, which I get. When I voluntarily released in 2015 with my university degree in psychology, I could not get a job. I was living in Toronto at the time, and I had never been to jail. I had nothing on my record. Part of the reason I left the military was some I don't know what word to put in there, but they were trying, not they, my chain of command and one master corporal in particular was trying to say that I did something that I did not do, which led to a court martial, a court trial, which lasted, it started in 2014, lasted until 2015. And so for about a year and a half, I was unable to train. I was unable to, which is not standard operating procedure in the military in the first place for what the charge being laid was for. It was ND, a negligent discharge, which just means I fired off a round when I wasn't supposed to. But again, that was never proven to be the case. They threw out the whole trial. I was never proven guilty, as well as another soldier who had gone through the same thing on the same day, same moment. And so, yeah, that led me to, that was another factor that led me to releasing from the military. So I started working in a parking lot, part-time for $12 an hour, living downtown Toronto. Just prior to that, the person I was with at the time, my partner, decided that she did not want to birth the child that we had just created, which led to our relationship crumbling, I believe, still to this day. So I started working in this parking lot and modeling. I started male modeling after my sister suggested I might be successful doing that. So I started doing that in 2016, and then I started working at Massey Hall part-time, again, just to be able to feed myself and somewhat support this partner I had at the time. We ended up breaking up, and in 2017, my physical body started shutting down. I was working out with my buddy one day in the gym. We were at Good Life. I had played university football up until then, and I was an athlete my whole life in different sports. And it's like, it felt like my body just seized. I remember we were benching, and both my shoulders just felt like I had just tried to lift 500 pounds without a warm-up. And so I had to stop working out. I know now what I didn't know then was that there was something happening in my mind. I was undiagnosed with PTSD and major depressive disorder. And because I had not addressed that issue, or the things in my life that were contributing to that issue, it started manifesting itself in my body. Excuse me. So in 2017, I left North America, never wanting to return. I did that because everything in day-to-day life was a trigger and a reminder of the life I was trying to get away from, that was of the military, and how it was so contrasted to what I believed it was when I enlisted in the first place. And everything was just a constant reminder of that. The Canadian flag on any building, anywhere. People speaking about whatever they were experiencing in their lives at the time. This is prior to COVID, so there was a lot of just meandering and people talking about whatever, their finances or their houses or their families or their hobbies or their interests or their beliefs or their religions or their anything and everything. So I left North America. I wanted to get away from everything I had been raised to believe in, which was upheld by every member of society, not just in here in Canada, but globally, it seemed. Hollywood, all the movies I had watched, all the documentaries, all of the courses I had taken, the religion I was raised in, was all pointing towards a very, very similar script of life, which was, if you're a good person, you'll have a good life. Basically. Be a contributing member of society, being nice, being polite, being respectful. People will respect you and you will advance to whatever you dream of in life. Having a family, having a marriage, being a man, all of those things were very preached about. And so I believed in it all. And I was willing to give my life for it all. And it all was bullshit. It all was a lie. So I had to get away from it in order to heal myself and to try and make sense of any part of it. In 2000, so I left North America. I went to Bali and New Zealand. I came back about a year later because my godmother passed away. I came home to support my family. When I was gone for the year, I did not work. I lived off of my savings from the few modeling jobs that I had. It was just a couple $1,000s, nothing crazy. But I lived off grid. I didn't work. I didn't volunteer. I didn't want to make friends, although I did make some very wonderful friends. The whole journey was just to heal myself. I knew that something was wrong, so I was still undiagnosed at this time, but I was suicidal, and I knew that that's not me. I don't know how it came to this, but this isn't part of my nature. In 2000 so I began meditating in an isolation, just in a valley, alone, away from people, away from time. I let go of time. In the military, 15 minutes to is on time, and hurry up and wait is a real thing. So you get a timing, and then you show up 15 minutes before that timing, so you're on time. But then that timing was actually 15 minutes prior to its official time. So that way, if there's any stragglers, it doesn't make that person who is in charge look bad because they had people rolling in late. And then that just continues up and up and up and up the chain. Needless to say, you hurry up to get somewhere, and then you wait there for a while. And that's not just a play on words, I mean very physically. Spent a lot of time wasted in my life just being respectful of other people's time, but they didn't respect our time. In 2019, I was diagnosed with PTSD and major depressive disorder, and I began working with Veterans Affairs Canada, or I guess more accurately, I began speaking and advocating on my own behalf to Veterans Affairs Canada to prove that all this mental turmoil was due to my experience in the military. And that process is excruciating. COVID followed. I was working as a veterans peer support worker at that time at a homeless shelter. as a way to once again give back to the community and be involved in any way that I could. In 2020, I moved to British Columbia for my own mental health and well-being, because everyone knows now COVID was a stressful time for everyone, especially the already homeless population, and now since then that has skyrocketed. So I was putting myself back into homelessness, making, I think, at minimum wage at the time. We were supposed to receive some special pay, at some COVID pay, but that never happened. So I had to get out of there once again. In 2021, working with VAC and psychiatrists and psychologists and all these other middle people, I started taking antidepressants. I started meds. I was on four medications, basically overnight, and I took those religiously for about 2 years before I decided in 2023 to get myself off of those this year, because I could tell it was just numbing me. It wasn't helping me. It helped my depression only because now I don't feel depressed, but great, I don't feel anything. So I don't know how that's any better. I am light, and I am love. No matter how it feels, this moment is divine. War is not our answer. Does not solve or end anything. Hasn't yet. Across time. And yet it's continuing. Growing. Life is precious. Every instance, even in crazy times, horrible times, is precious. Even regardless to me or us feeling like it should be some other way. Life is meditation.
focus is meditation. Conscious awareness and attention is meditation. Scan and breathe. Driving a car is meditation. Being engaged in a conversation is meditation. Taking in any moment is meditation. Creating any moment is meditation. Feeling is meditation, and being is meditation. Listening is meditation. Breathing is meditation. With Remembrance Day approaching, I feel inclined to shine some light in a very dark day. For so long, and knowing that the people suffering the most on that day will be suffering in silence, alone, as so many of us do here and have. And share the ability to pull through that. As someone who has in the past. I lost a friend and a brother this year in the summer, back home in Windsor, Ontario. Who is a Canadian hero that no one has ever heard about, who survived everything unimaginable for so long. It's kind of unbelievable. And now no one will know just the extent of that, because he took his own life this summer. And he was of the highest ranks attainable in the world in terms of protecting others in a very real way. And he survived all of it. And he has a beautiful family. Which was still growing. He has 3 children. One was just brought into this world. And felt it was his best option after all he had been through to take himself out. And that's not a personal experience or issue. Reality, life scenario of just military personnel, but our society objectively, his mind is a direct representation of what we hold to be the highest attainable for anyone. His mental resilience and strength. He was a member of the JTF-2. At the funeral, his current unit who carried his casket to his grave did not utter a single time what that unit was. And that's the honorable thing to do, to be the honorable way to be silent. I remembered recently something I was told to memorize. My first year in the military, after knocking it off the wall, running down the hallway, and breaking it. By Ian Carey. My IC at the time, Corporal Ian Carey. The ultimate test of a person's conscience is their willingness to sacrifice something today for future generations whose words of thanks will never be heard. I don't know who wrote it. I don't know if it was a quote or if it was I don't know. And it's an honorable and very encouraged way to be. And now, after being out, after becoming 32 years old and having this be the reality, I see things a little differently. That every life is divine. All those alive today and all those who have passed since the beginning of time because time is not what we're familiar with. It's that and so much and nothing. In Canada, within its military, we are told to suffer in silence. And it's rippled. It's said again and again. Everything is different in the military. Everything. It's a completely different experience of life itself. And one of those things is its language. And there's this term within the military, no duff. No duff. My dream is for Pete Duff to be our last no Duff. It's 2023. Remembrance Day is around the corner. And it is a time to celebrate every single life that has been acknowledged and has not been acknowledged. To honor them all and all of their families. Because no one walks through life alone. No one. Thankfully. And I love to be alone. But I also love and am learning to navigate everyone. Truly. Will be beginning to record free meditations for anyone, anywhere, who may be feeling overwhelmed by anything, or uncomfortable, or triggered, or stressed, or staticky, or off balance, or lost, or alone. Because no one gets through life alone is not a catchy phrase. It's not a sugarcoating. Pete felt alone. And in a lot of ways, he was. And for a lot of people who are in a similar place, that is the way it feels. And I can empathize with that. But an objective truth is when we broaden our horizon of the truth, when we take in a fuller picture of the truth, not of our own existence, not of our own suffering and past or present, or anxiety or depression or worry or fear or doubt, any unpleasant and unwanted narratives, pre-existing beliefs, or things we've focused on and put a lot of attention into. To broaden our horizon of life itself. Hold all of that valid experience of life that you have been living and are currently suffering from. Hold it. We're used to focusing on it anyways, most of us, I would say. It takes a lot of our mental attention. Acknowledge it. Hold it. Visualize it. It's real, it's there. It's like your hand. Put it all into your hand. And know that all the feeling, how real it is, all those thoughts, how loud they are, all of that, that is really your experience, is happening within not the middle, but within the infinite of perfect balance everywhere, eternally, since the beginning of time. The sun, which is our anchor for life, on this planet, has never for one moment, for 1 second, for 1 instant taken a break. We are hung in perfect balance, even with all of the things that we feel that are negative and things that we experience in our lives that are horrible. It's valid, but it's not the extent of what we are. And so we feel alone in it because we've been taught to not bring it up, to not acknowledge it, to pretend that everybody everywhere else is doing great all the time, or vice versa, that nobody anywhere is or has been. Neither of those things are true. We are one planet. We are one consciousness globally. And so it doesn't matter where you are or what you feel. You can't be alone if you tried. And I have tried. I have dissected myself from life itself at times in my life. I still currently live on an island in the city. We all feel alone in our suffering, but that is not the fullest truth. Namaste, in the truest sense to you, and to all those you love and don't even know yet, haven't even met yet. Time to hydrate. Peace.